All right, so I think we should get going. Yeah, a warm welcome to everyone from the Israeli Trade Mission in Germany. We are very happy to have a great audience today from Germany and from Israel, of course, but also from other European countries and even further abroad, for example, from the US. I am Simon Stefken. I work as a trade officer here at the Israeli Trade Mission in Berlin and will guide you through today's event. Before we get started with today's topic, I will shortly introduce our office as well as our partners. The Israel Economic and Trade Mission is the outer branch of the Israeli Ministry of Economy and Industry in Jerusalem. We are part of a worldwide network of 45 trade missions and help Israeli companies enter the local markets and spread the word of Israeli innovation in all sectors. We also offer scouting for Israeli innovation for any German company interested, and we deliver this service for free as we are a publicly funded institution. So please feel free to reach out and approach us anytime. In Germany, we have 2 offices, while I myself am located at the embassy in Berlin. We have colleagues that are located in Munich. Here in Berlin, Esther Elias is the commercial consul of the trade mission, and in Munich, Doron Chemo is leading the office. For this event on quantum technology, we joined forces with the Israeli National Quantum Initiative, with Dr. Tal David being its head, and also the Israel-Europe Research and Innovation Directorate, ISED. From the German side, we are supported by Optech BB, the Photonic Association Berlin-Brandenburg, as well as the Quantum Business Network led by Johannes Ferst. Thank you very much for your support and spreading the word of this event, and we very much look forward to further collaboration in the future. What can you expect today? After a crisp presentation of the Israeli quantum ecosystem by Tal David, whom I will present in a second, 4 quantum tech companies are going to pitch. There will be a 7-minute presentation for each and a short Q&A section afterwards. So please note your questions during the pitches. After the companies have pitched, Rachel from ISED will present the upcoming calls in the EU that offer opportunities for collaboration with Israeli technology. One word on today's meeting format. We hold this meeting in an open Zoom meeting, meaning everyone can send chat messages to everyone else. This is a networking opportunity we would like to encourage you to use. So please approach each other and have an eye to the chat box if messages pop up there. In general, please feel free to introduce yourself in the chat and share your contact details. Now, without any further ado, let me introduce to you Dr. Tal David. Dr. Tal David is head of the Israel National Quantum Initiative. This initiative is a joint venture between the Council for Higher Education, the Israel Innovation Authority, the Ministry of Science, the Ministry of Defense, and the Ministry of Finance. We are very pleased to have you, Tal, and the stage is yours.
All right. Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Simon and Esther, for setting this whole up and pushing this. I couldn't do anything remotely close to this without you. And thank you also for all the presenters today from the companies and from ISED who joined us today and cleared their time. And also for everyone who came to hear what the Israeli ecosystem is all about in quantum. I'll try to give a brief description of what we have in Israel and what's the national initiative, and mainly to leave the time to the actual presenters. We in the government are trying to do our best to influence and grow the ecosystem, but it all starts and ends with the people that are actually doing the stuff, actually doing the research and development, and these are the most important people, and we want to have them at the spotlight. And also, it does not do good if we'll have wonderful programs if the people will not meet together, and this is the purpose of the event that we have today here. Okay, so I'll put up my slides, and I'll speak for 10-15 minutes, I think, about the Israel ecosystem, what it's all about, And please feel free to write any questions in the chat. We'll see if we have time for that at the end. So let's go. Okay, so as Simon said, my name is Tal David. I'm heading the Israel National Quantum Initiative on behalf of all the participating governmental agencies, which are the leading R&D agencies in the Israeli government. So I think I don't need to explain to people that came here that quantum is huge now worldwide. Every time that we show this slide showing global investments, it gets outdated again and again because the pace is really incredible. And we see a lot of big corporations and now smaller corporations and startups in the field going very fast and investing in roughly 3 areas. A lot of the times people hear quantum nowadays, they think only in quantum computers, but no. We usually talk about it at 3 main application vectors. The first one is quantum sensing, where we're using the basic fundamental principles and phenomena and the internal structures of a quantum system to measure things very accurately, if it is time with atomic clocks, if it's magnetic fields, inertial forces, and so on and so forth. This is the more mature vector. It's been here for quite some time. It gets the less amount of attention today, but it's still very important and the most applied one. We'll hear a little bit about it from one of the companies soon. Second vector is quantum communication or quantum cryptography, and the idea there is to use basic principles like the measurement principle or the uncertainty principle, and from that to generate a method for distributing secret keys or to distributing quantum information in a ultimately secure method, relying on the physics and not on the computational power. So even if there will be more and more strong computers that will still be immune to that, and we'll hear about that as well today. And finally, quantum computing and simulation is all about using the fact that quantum system can be in a mixture, in a superposition of states at the same time, and other properties in quantum physics that have to do with it, that enables to do some sorts of computation in a very efficient and fast manner. And this brings game-changing capabilities for the world to come. This is the least mature one, but the pace that it goes through is incredible. And I expect that even in the next 1 to 5 years, we'll see more and more practical applications of quantum computing, and we'll hear about quantum computing and simulators also from representatives of Israeli startups today. I'm going on this very, very fast in order to get to leave the most time to the people that are actually doing the work. So excuse me if I'm really buzzing through this. When we understood that we need to think about the national initiative in Israel, we analyzed what we had to start with. So on the academic side, we saw that we have an excellent community, excellent in terms of scientific publications in H-index, in European Research Council grants, and so on and so forth. Also, this community is quite young relative to other fields, but it's a small community. We set out with about 100 research groups at the core of quantum in Israel. Today, we have quantum science and technology centers in all of the universities in Israel. Most of them started as virtual centers, but they are gradually developing to be also physical centers. On the industry side, 4 or 5 years ago, you could count on the fingers of one hand the number of quantum companies in Israel, mostly the defense-oriented ones. As you will see in a few slides, this is changing dramatically these days. And the government side, all the government agencies involved in the national initiative have been investing in quantum, but the only dedicated program, dedicated portfolio was in the Ministry of Defense. And this is pushing, as it is in many other places in the world, the whole government sector. And all the pictures that you see at the bottom of the slides are all Israeli-made quantum technologies from academia or industry, real examples. So the Israel National Quantum Initiative is under what is known as the TELEM Forum. TELEM is the Hebrew acronym for Technological Infrastructure for Research. And as Simon said before, this is a joint venture of the Council of Higher Education, pushing all the academia forward, the Innovation Authority, pushing the industry forward, and the Ministry of Defense, Science, and of course the Ministry of Finance that gives all the money. They are the most important guys. Typically, this is not a new forum. It's over 20 years old. Typically, this is for joining forces for infrastructure projects, like physical infrastructure, and I give a few examples here. And here in the Quantum Initiative, for the first time, we looked beyond just physical infrastructure. We understood that if we build a fancy, fabrication facility and there will not be a whole ecosystem around it, we'll not have the best results. So we broadened the scope of what usually this forum is doing together. We have done some work and arrived to some main conclusions and some challenges that we identified. First of all, we understood that quantum science and technology is a strategic field and it's here for years to stay. And Israel, that has a long-lasting heritage on the basis of information communication technology, on the basis of cyber, basis of AI, needs to position itself as a leader also in this field. Secondly, this is not more of the same. This is a change of paradigms. You cannot just take a few CPUs and GPUs and build a stronger computer in order to get a quantum computer. It's a whole different language, a whole different story. And you need to understand that and develop the ecosystem in light of that, to create and enhance the relevant disciplines, to bring physicists, computer scientists to talk to each other, to develop quantum engineering, to bring people to a multidisciplinary approach. And this is something which is very fundamental. Third, Israel, although we see ourselves as leaders, we understand also that we are infants. Okay, we need to start for something. We have a small community, and therefore we define this 5-6 year program now as a first step, part of a long-term vision, and I hope that we'll be able to live up to this long-term vision. The main challenge that we identified, as you could have understood also from the previous slide, is human capital. We have good people, but we have few people, and we have to enlarge and improve the community while maintaining the scientific and technological excellence. And this is getting to be dealt throughout many of the components of the initiative that I'll show in a couple of slides. Also, of course, there are issues that everybody is involved around the world. Should we focus on something specific? Should we invest laterally? As you saw, as you will see, we'll try to balance between these kinds of things. A word about international collaboration, this is very important. We understand that this is very deep technology, very deep scientific concepts. In order to succeed, we have to work with other people. We have to collaborate with the world. And this is true both in the scientific level and in the applied level, in industry and everywhere. On the other hand, we see that the window of opportunity for collaboration in this field is getting challenged. It's getting narrower all the time. We see export restrictions in different places around the world getting to be more and more prominent. And therefore, it's important for us to find our partners. And I think that Germany, for sure, is the best and strongest ally that Israel has currently in Europe. And it's been evident, especially in the last few months with the negotiations relating to Horizon Europe. So we thank the German partners and our friends in the government there extremely. So we want to use the window of opportunity and collaborate with our friends as much as we can all of the time. Finally, about management, we wanted, as I said before, that the people that are actually doing the research and development will get the most of the funds. Less than 1% of the whole initiative is the management budget. We have a very simple, lean, fast, flexible management process. It has its disadvantages as well, but it enables us to do things on a fast pace. And when I talk to people from other national initiatives around the world, the thing that attracts them to Israel, maybe the strongest thing is to learn how we can do things relatively fast. Internally in Israel, we always think that we can do faster, but when people around the world look at what we do, this is something that is emphasized. So from these conclusions, we got a few high-level goals. The first two are kind of trivial: to push the academia and enlarge the community while maintaining the excellence, to push the applied research and development ecosystem in the industry, as you'll see in a couple of slides. And the third one, I think the most important one, it is to implement quantum science and technology, to have the impact from that, to have job creation and economic impact from that. And also we see evidence from that the Israeli government has approved this as part of the incentive package from the COVID crisis, because the decision makers identified that this is one of the generators of economic boost that can happen in Israel. The same thing happened in Germany. A few more zeros in the budget, though. But this is something that is very important. This is not only an R&D hobby, but we want really to have this impacting day-to-day life. I think I more or less covered everything that's written about the rationale here. One thing is very important is openness. We are open to all partners in the program, of course, under the Israeli legislation and regulations, but we welcome collaboration. We already have some collaboration with Europe and other countries, and this is very important for us to stress as well. So this slide gives an overview of the components of the program. The overall scope is about 350, 360 million euros, depending on the euro rate at the time, going up to the year 2025. And the size of the circles is roughly relevant to the size of the budget, the relative size in the budget. So I'll give a few examples as we go along. Some of these components are lateral in the sense that they don't care if the participant is in sensing or computing or whatnot. Some of them are more dedicated, and I'll give just 3 examples. The first one is a dedicated quantum academic research fund that brings together researchers from different departments and universities working together. This is the first thing that we initiated in the program in late 2019. The first round of 10 main projects is active since then. The second round, actually last week, was finalized and will start to work during October. You could see like a distribution of what topics are in there. Everything is based on peer-reviewed, competitive, scientific excellence-based processes. And this is unique. Already today, after 2 years, less than 2 years, we see an increase of about 20 to 25% in the number of academic groups at the core of quantum science and technology in Israel. And this gives a first notion of what the impact of the national initiative is doing. Also, I might add that within this research fund, there are international collaborations to some extent, and this is also relevant if there are academics here. Second example, in industry, we have 2 industry consortia. I'm explaining here about the first one in quantum sensing. We'll hear about IAI Elta that is taking part of this consortium in a few minutes. The idea there is to take a few companies and a few academic groups and have them working on the generic aspects of technology together to push them to be able to compete with the market. So we have a few companies at the core. We have a few industry clients like the Israel Electric Company or Cellcom, which is a cellular telephone company, that are driving and orienting the technology development, and about 12 academic groups. And you see that it doesn't really matter if you're working on atomic clocks or quantum magnetic sensors or quantum gravity sensors. A lot of the technology is very common with each other. And therefore, these companies that on a day-to-day might be competitors, here they collaborate together with each other. So this is one consortium. We have a very similar logic for another consortium that started in January 2021 in the field of quantum cryptography, and Quantelar, that is also represented here, is taking part in that consortium. Finally, the last example I want to say is about the quantum computing focus area. We do not aspire to be the giants tomorrow morning. The Israeli community is small, and the Israeli quantum computing community is even smaller, but we have to be on the playing field. We have to be close enough to what happens in the world, and therefore we define it as a focus area. We use it both in state-of-the-art quantum computers over the cloud to get familiarized with what it is. We invest dedicated effort in academia to generate more people into the training pipeline. And mostly we have a project that we call applied quantum computing that we hope that in the next few months we'll get to the competitive stage of it and kick-start it at the beginning, or let's say in the early stages of 2022, that in layman's term will be building the Israeli quantum computer. in more delicate and accurate description, it is to build an infrastructure for quantum computing from the hardware level of the qubits through the control software, everything, in order to have all the ecosystem being interacting with it and building on it. So small companies will not need to invest themselves in building very complicated physical infrastructure and so on. So this is very exciting. And also this is open for partners from Europe and the world. Finally, the last thing I think I want to say is about community and special programs. It's fun to be in the government and drive all these things, but the Israeli community is not waiting for us in the government. We have bottom-up community, people getting organized by themselves, especially through COVID, that everybody were through Zoom, having webinars and seminars and conferences, and this is very exciting. And another thing that we are pushing is for special programs for future scientists. We go to the elite, the best and the brightest of high school students, people that finish high school while they're in their PhD degrees already. There are very few people like that. And we are orienting them to specialized quantum computing or quantum technology programs. And this is also very exciting. Before I finish, the Israeli quantum industry map is changing rapidly. I said before that we had 4 or 5 industries. Today we are counting about 30 companies. And this is a mixture between hardware, software, and component manufacturers. This is a mixture between large, medium, and startup companies. I don't have time to go into all of them. Today, we brought to you a sample, one from sensing, one from cryptography, a couple for quantum computing and simulation, and this will give a taste of what we have in Israel, and I think we'll leave the ground to these guys to speak. So I'd like to thank everybody for your time and to invite you to interact with us in the government, to interact more importantly with the actual people in the research community in the industry, and to develop the partnerships and collaborations for years to come. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much, Tal. One question was in the chat. Maybe you can say one word about it. Is post-quantum cryptography also already in use in Israel to protect data, devices, and infrastructures from quantum computer attacks at the moment? Maybe you can say one word about this, and then we hand over.
Okay, so I'll say 2 words about this. First of all, people should know that when you talk about post-quantum cryptography, what it is algorithms that are used to encrypt data, okay? That there currently today, there is no known quantum computing algorithm to break them. They are still relying on mathematical complexity like the usual systems that you probably know, like RSA or factorization, but they are still relying on mathematical complexity, and it would not be a surprise that in some point in time, there will be quantum computing algorithms to break also these kinds. So I don't really like the name post-quantum because there's nothing quantum in there and there's certainly nothing post in there. That is to say, if you look at what happens in Israel, there's very, very little activity in post-quantum cryptography. There is some work, mostly academic, some work in defense, but not much, and certainly not something that is mature or in industry level. Nevertheless, there are people looking at it, and I expect that this will switch gears in the next 1 or 2 years also in Israel. Everybody in the world is looking at the NIST competition in the US in this area, and I think that it will develop as well.
Great, thank you very much. Now, let's go to the first startup pitch. We have Quantum Machines, represented by their CEO, Itamar Sivan. Welcome, and the stage is yours, Itamar.
Thank you, Simon. Thank you very much. So it's a pleasure and an honor to be here today. And I'd like to thank the organizers before I begin for this opportunity to tell this audience about quantum machines. So let's begin. So assuming like Tal did that the audience here today is somewhat aware of what quantum computing is, let me start at quantum machines vision. We believe that quantum computers can bring about the biggest computation revolution since the invention of computers. And our vision is to enable the realization of useful quantum computers that are disruptive and ubiquitous across all industries. A bit about the people behind the company. So many of the people behind the company are in fact quantum physicists that have been working on quantum research and development for quite a few years. Among them is Jonathan Cohen, our CTO, who did his PhD at the Weizmann Institute here in Israel. Nissim Ofek, who also did his PhD here in Israel and his postdoc at Yale. So a small note about Nissim is that he was the first person in the world to demonstrate quantum error correction. That's one of the terms that I guess for all of you who are familiar with quantum computing is very dramatic and very important in order to scale quantum computers. We also work closely with some of our advisors like Amir Yacobi, professor at Harvard, Scott Aronson, University of Texas, one of the leading researchers for quantum algorithms worldwide. So a bit about the timeline of quantum machines so that you can kind of place us in a roadmap. So we founded the company in 2018. We raised a seed round back then. We had our first proof of concept product released to the market a year later. And the year after, we raised our A round, as well as released our first product to general availability, starting distribution globally. So as I said, behind quantum machines is a great deal of quantum physicists, which are the heart of the company in a way. But we're today about 60 people. In fact, we're starting a formal branch in Germany these very days. We already have people based in Germany. And we're honored to have people based in Germany, in Stuttgart. We have an industry-leading technology for the control and operation of QPUs. I'll talk just a little bit about that in a few moments. And I guess that the best way to know that you have something good is by the traction of your customers. And today we have more than 50 customers, in fact, by now more than 13 countries, including Germany, of course. So this is just a partial list of our customers, not an exhaustive one, of ones that are okay with us publishing their names. Other than that, we're very well positioned in an emerging industry where technology patenting is very important. And we have the biggest patent portfolio in the world for our category. So quantum machines is also is here to stay. So we are a well-funded startup. We've raised thus far $75 million. In fact, the Series B is yet to be declared in just a few days. It was closed yesterday, so this is news, in fact. And we're backed by some very large corporations and investors worldwide. So let's talk just briefly about how it works and what it is that we do in quantum computing, okay? So as many of you may know, the heart of a quantum computer is the quantum processor, right? This is where the magic happens. This is where we have the quantum bits, okay, which are the fundamental building blocks of the quantum computer, okay? And they hold the data, okay, which is replacing, and they are replacing the bits, okay? So some of you may have heard of the physicist hand waving that the quantum processor in terms of data, yeah, a quantum processor of just 300 quantum bits is equivalent to a classical processor with more bits than the number of atoms in the universe, right? So the quantum processor has indeed huge potential in terms of storage, but it's not for the storage that we're here. We're here for computing, and if we have a huge amount of data here, what we now need to do is operate on it, right? We actually want to compute something. And for that, there is a technical thing which is very important, and that is that if we save a great deal of data in a quantum processor and then we want to calculate something on it, okay, what we actually need to do is we need to send pulses to it, okay? So let's say that you want to calculate something, you save here 2 and 3, and now you want to perform a multiplication on them. So the way it works is that you need to send pulses, electromagnetic waves, into the quantum processor. Once these pulses hit the qubits, the quantum processor, this will apply the arithmetic operation that you wanted to perform, such as a multiplier, an adder, or anything else. And And this kind of replaces what some of you may be familiar with, which is logic gates and logic design of classical processors. And what we do with quantum machines, we actually develop the systems, the infrastructure that does that exactly. So that takes, on the one hand, algorithms as complex as they may get, quantum algorithms, as complex as they may get. On the one hand, as an input in the software, and on the hardware side, it outputs all the sequences of pulses that once they hit the qubits, they actually run the algorithm. So therefore, you can see in the back of the slide, you can see the analogy that we like to use, and that is of a quantum processor to a muscle, because you can think of a quantum processor as an extremely strong muscle that can do extremely heavy lifting. It's a bit like the strongest muscle on Earth, right? But you'll agree with me that even the strongest muscle on Earth needs a different system to operate it. It needs a brain, right? So if I have a super strong muscle that can lift a car, right, without the brain sending a pulse to it, it will not even lift the lightest feather. This is what we do for quantum computers. So I won't really take a deep dive into our technology. I'll just kind of kind of glance over it so that for the technical people among you, you can get an idea, and then we can follow up later if you have interest. Okay. So what does the tech stack in our system looks like? So it comprises of analog electronics, the one that is interfacing directly the qubits, responsible for sending and getting pulses. At the heart of our system, there are processors, our processors, which are our core technology. We develop processors that can run algorithms on quantum computers. Their interface is an assembly language, for those of you who are familiar with the term. So that's the lowest level language that a processor is capable of talking, right? And then we have a higher level language in which one can formulate any quantum algorithm of interest. So QuMag, which I'm happy to discuss with anyone who has interest, is an open source, low level language for programming quantum computers. And I'd feel confident saying that it's the richest, most wide and comprehensive low level programming language for quantum computers. Again, it's open source, and I'm happy to discuss that with anyone in the audience that has interest in realizing advanced and challenging quantum computers in algo and software already today. So from an architecture perspective, a quantum computer has, once again, it has the quantum processors. These are fridges in which we store them. The main thing that we provide to our customers or our partners are the hardware modules that actually control those and operate them. And above that, there is the server layer, which is essential in order to do heavier classical processing, which in some cases we provide, in some cases it is provided by the customer. And after that, there is the end users of the quantum computers, which can, of course, plug into these systems and use them for their own use cases. And the way we view the value chain kind of forming for quantum computing, kind of if you take all this and just wrap it up in a slightly different way, is that ultimately quantum computing will be delivered mostly through the cloud, not only, but mostly through the cloud, where cloud vendors will bring in quantum processors of many different kinds. There are many different kinds being developed all over the world. And what quantum machines will be doing is deploying the entire infrastructure that can actually operate all of these quantum processors in a unified way and realize their potential in favor of, or in the benefit of, the end users. And this is what we're doing, thankfully, with many of our great partners. So I'd like to thank you all and invite you to reach out if you have interest. We're happy to partner and work on the most groundbreaking technology with you guys. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you, Itamar. Thank you for this great and crisp and short and informative presentation. There is a detailed discussion going on in the chat on encryption topics. If you have questions to Itamar and Quantum Machines, please write them or approach him directly. With an eye to the watch, I would like to now introduce Gene Tradonsky from LightSolver. Gene is the CTO there, and he's going to present the next company. Welcome to our event, and we are very happy to have you, Gene.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Simon. And share my screen. Okay, so I like to introduce you the idea behind LightSolver and the concept behind our technology. LightSolver basically is quantum-inspired technology. It's not quantum yet, but it's based on quantum ideas, and it takes advantage of all development done on quantum annealing technologies. So what we're trying to solve, basically, what's the problem that we try to tackle? Or should I say that it's hard optimization problem. We like always to give the example of the traveling salesman as a good example to what is hard optimization problem look like, assuming that we have some traveling salesman with 5 cities to visit. We know that the number of possible routes is factorial 5 or 120 options, which is relatively easy to solve and check all the options to find the best route. But if we have 10 cities, it became 10 factorial, and 10 factorial is 3.5 million. And it's still possible to check all of them. But if we have already 50 cities we want to visit in, the number is simply huge, is 64-digit different routes. And even if we take the strongest computer there is today, Fugaku from Japan, with 400 petaflops, it's still too much. It still takes longer than the edge of the universe to scan all the possible options. Today we use all kinds of heuristics, and that's the thing with hard optimization problem. The scaling is just enormous. It's exponentially growth. And we hope that in the future, quantum computer will be fast enough to solve those kinds of problems. But quantum computers are not there yet. Maybe in the future, maybe in 10 years from now, according to a more optimistic version. But meanwhile, we can only use heuristics on all kinds of approximate approach to try to solve those problems, and we cannot really get the optimal solution to those kinds of problems. So we can find similar problems basically everywhere, from quantum chemistry simulations like protein folding, which is very relevant to the COVID-19 problem that we have today in the world, in machine learning and AI, optimizing and routing of data, energy or transportation, risk management or portfolio optimization, threat detection in cybersecurity. All of those problems has very the same thing in common, that the problem size became exponentially large, and as a problem became bigger. And we offer a different approach. We know that a quantum computer are not there yet, and we do take some of the ideas from the idea of the adiabatic quantum computer led by a D-Wave company. And the idea is to use the adiabatic approach. We try to build an adiabatic optical solver based on special laser array. It's a classical approach. We prove in Weizmann Institute that we can use special laser array to find the optimal solution of a spin system. We can find the optimal solution of some known Hamiltonian. We can program the problem using some diffractive optical elements. And we can basically write any type of problem you can send today to a quantum annealer and send it directly to a device like that. And it's already been proven that using special laser array, you can already get a speed up which is better than what you can achieve with classical computing. In a lab of Neil Davidson from Weizmann Institute, we demonstrated a speed up of about even 10 million compared to a classical problem. But for general problem that we want to solve, what's known as NP-hard, NP-complete kind of problem, we expect to get a speed up of about 1,000. And most importantly, the scaling should be significantly better than what you can achieve from classical computer. It means that when the problem became bigger and bigger, the advantage you can achieve from such a device is significantly improved. Another key factor is that the device is going to be about 1,000 times smaller than a quantum computer or a supercomputer. It's going to be a tabletop devices eventually. It's not very complicated to build, don't need extreme condition to operate. It is required quite good optical engineering and electrical engineering. However, it can stand on your desk eventually. And this is most importantly. And of course, it's going to be significantly cheaper because it's based on existing technology that are well established today. Eventually, as we said, it's going to be a standalone device or available on a cloud as a service, as most quantum technologies are going to be available in the near future. I'm going to give you a flavor how it's going to look like to work with such a service. Basically, you have some problem. For example, we take synchronizing drones with different missions on the air, on the fly. We need to do it in real time. We can map this kind of problem to some known method known as Ising model. Ising model is very popular to solving such a problem. D-Wave is using it. There are some digital annealer that use that model, and basically that model is very popular to solve a hard optimization problem. And from that, we have our own mapping to our programmable optical coupler that do all the interactions and all the constraints between the special laser array. And when we just need to now to turn on the lasers, and the lasers need to fulfill all of those constraints and all of this condition in order to lace. And when they actually lace, it's take about less than a microsecond. We just need to read up the results using a very simple camera and translate it back to the spin model, and from that to the original problem, and get the optimal solution to our original problem. We can go very deeply on how the technology actually works, how you can actually solve a specific problem on a laser array. I can send you reference if you interested on that subject. But eventually, a very simple method. I would like to show you our team. Ruti Ben Shlomi is our very talented CEO. She came from background of quantum computing and quantum technologies from the lab of Rui Azeri from Weizmann Institute. I finished my PhD at Weizmann Institute as well at the lab of Nir Davidson, who is our scientific advisor. He is our very talented team of physicists and algorithm and software developer that build the device, do all the simulations and all the models and all the mappings for real world problems. This is our advisory team. Orna Berry was the first Israeli scientist of Israel. Nir Davidson was until recently the dean of the faculty department in Weizmann Institute. Professor Meir Feder and Benny Schneider were very famous. Meir Feder from Tel Aviv University, and Benny Schneider, who is serial entrepreneur. We are well funded. We just founded from Enter Capital, from Manachitov, and Dan Axe from IBI Tech Fund. And most recently, we also get funded from the Israel Innovation Authority. We are we raised our seed round already, and right now we are soon we hope to complete some basic cloud service that we can already demonstrate. We already show some very first application and that run in simulation environment. We soon hope to complete the all-to-all optical coupler, which is a key component of the system that allow us to apply all the constraints. And by the end of the year, we plan to demonstrate a full working device to prove the scalability of the device, and start working with 4 design partners that we are already engaging with. Until the middle of 2023, we're going to have a full SDK, about 10 1000 spin device with full connectivity, which is key advantage of our system compared to most other quantum or classical system. The full connectivity is most important to mapping problems efficiently and not use auxiliary spins. And we're gonna offer a full light solver as a service, basically available on the cloud, and start building our user community. And by 3 to 5 years from now, we hope to have our first standalone device that we can sell as a unit to customers that are unable to use it on the cloud, either from security or from latency issues, and need it as a standalone device, as a rec unit. And that's it. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much, Rene. There is one question in the chat, maybe with regards to time. Maybe you can simply type an answer into the chat. The question is, what are the real world problems you can solve? What is the size of the problem? Maybe you can simply write some sentences about it in the chat, and we proceed to the next company. I'm very happy to welcome Shlomi Cohen, CEO and co-founder of QuantLR. We're very happy to have you here. Welcome. Welcome to this virtual room, Shlomi. And we're looking forward to your presentation.
Okay, thank you, Simon. And guten Tag, everyone. With the 7 minutes that I'm having, I will try to make sure that you will get the right feeling about the company. QuantLR established 3 years ago.
Shlomi,
yes?
You are not in presentation mode.
Okay. Can you see it now?
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, good. So QuantLR established 3 years ago, and the company is actually developing quantum encryption for fiber optic environment and interfacing also to the satellite environment as well. As you probably know, today the entire encryption that the market is having is based on mathematical technology. And the mathematical encryption start to be breaking quite often. And the idea is to create much better encryption that's based on the principle of the quantum technology. The company is actually developing quantum encryption with a very low cost that can be even 10 times less compared to our identified competitors. This is one. The second thing is our ability actually to detect any kind of eavesdropping on the fiber optic cable. We are not creating latency with our technology due to the fact that we are using separate channels inside the fiber optic cable in order to exchange the keys between sites. Our mission in the end of the day is to bring a quantum encryption in a very low cost and with minimum modification to the existing telecommunication environment. As I mentioned before, most of our IP is actually based on the fact that we design a very unique technology in order to protect in a very comprehensive way fiber optic environment, and as I mentioned before, also to interface satellite environment as well. We are approaching 4 major industries in the market. The first one is the data centers. I'm speaking about all the Amazon, IBM, Microsoft, eBay of this world, financial institute, or anyone that is doing mega transaction like banks, credit card companies, payment processors, and insurance company. Critical infrastructure like utilities, water company, and so on. And in the telecom industry, we are actually approaching the 5G base station based on the fact that all the 5G vendors such as Nokia, Ericsson and Huawei stated that they are going to integrate quantum encryption inside the 5G base station. We already have a few POCs that we are running with companies in Singapore and also in Israel. And we are planning to have a few pilots, very advanced one, by the way, with the following brands that presented in this slide. The idea basically to show how we are actually encrypting data between sites, to which distance, and with which quality. Those are actually the main building blocks of such pilot. Important to mention, by the way, that we already successfully were able to transmit and receive encrypted data for a distance of 50 kilometers, when the idea is to bring the distance up to 100 kilometers, that this is actually represent almost 90% of the fiber optic cable infrastructure worldwide. 90% of the infrastructure is based on the urban level, on the city level, on the county level, and the rest are considered to be long distance that we are not touching them via fiber optic cable. What we can touch long distance via a satellite environment as well. A little bit about the team. So we are having with us Professor Eisenberg, that is a worldwide expert in quantum technology. Our CTO, Dr. Nitzan Livne, is actually expert in quantum communication. Yanir Farber is an entrepreneur and acting as our COO. All in all, today, we are 10 team members. We already have 2 PhD, 1 professor, and I believe that by the end of Q1 next year, we are going to double our team. When the idea is to bring the fully commercial platform in Q4 next year. And today we are having a full platform, a full working platform. And due to this fact, we are actually implementing pilots in the different industries. In this slide, we are actually presenting the potential of this market. And we are speaking about more than $15 billion in 2026. You can see, by the way, the split inside the budget, meaning you can see that the financial market is actually leading the request for quantum encryption, and then all the others like civilians, government, military, telecom, and so on. I believe that this split will be changed in the next 24 months when you will see that one of the major consumer will be the 5G base station. This is in nutshell about the IP. We have already 3 IPs, and all of them are related to the design of our system in order to bring a cost-effective one, and in order to make sure, by the way, that we will be able to implement the technology, meaning our platform, on existing telecom infrastructure with minimum modifications. This is in a nutshell about the company. I will be more than happy to get your question offline, and if you want to connect with me directly, please feel free doing that. Simon, please.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Shlomi. Yeah, please, everyone, engage with him. You can also approach us afterwards if you want us to make the connection. Otherwise, type your questions in the chat. And as I will now introduce to you Igor Sherbak from IAI Elta, from the Research and Development Department. Igor, welcome, and we are very much looking forward to your pitch.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, I'm sharing my screen. Just a second. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure and honor to represent here Israel Aerospace Industries and its Elta division, and I'll give a short pitch about our quantum magnetometry project. Elta is one of the largest Israeli companies developing multidisciplinary systems for land, sea, air, and space for both actual homeland security, defense, and civilian markets. It develops multi-layer technologies that are primarily based on in-house development advanced sensor and implemented into a variety of systems. Elta is involved in the field of magnetics for more than about 30 years, and it develops various active and passive systems for magnetic anomaly detection. Facing the modern challenges required more and more sensitive magnetic system, about a decade ago, Elta targeted development of quantum magnetometry as one of its strategic R&D directions. And the goals of this program were to develop quantum magnetometry as an enabling technology, and to develop robust, low-cost, ultra-sensitive magnetometers and capable to be integrated with other systems to provide ultimate solutions. There are a variety of applications that our sensors can, and I believe will be integrated, starting from Earth's magnetic field measurements, magnetic mapping, geophysical surveys, and mineral exploration. It can also be used for magnetic anomalies detection, for building systems, for boarding protection, for security of critical infrastructures like harbors, power stations, drilling rigs, etc. And it can also contribute to medical technologies to bring the technology for magnetoencephalography, for brain screening, cognitive neuroscience, etc. These slides presents the main magnetometry challenge of the necessity to detect the signal from very small or distant objects, unshielded and unhindered by sensor internal noise. The chart scales Earth's magnetic field with the magnetic field changes produced by different objects or effects, and it reveals the complexity of the magnetic measurement issue. It's necessary to understand that the sensor must be able to simultaneously measure the absolute value of a magnetic field, which is usually correspond to the level of Earth's magnetic field of about 50 microtesla, and at the same time to be able to detect the tiniest variation caused, for example, by neurons in the man's brain. So to be able to detect such small magnetic field variation at the Earth's magnetic field background, one needs sensor that provides the sensitivity of at least 8 orders of magnitude above the main measured value. And the farther the more. Such levels of sensitivity are far beyond the conventional system capabilities. But fortunately, it can be provided by quantum magnetometry, which theoretical sensitivity limit is far beyond that of Tesla. It's obvious from the chart that sensor with sensitivity below picotesla level can be generally used as basic elements for sensitive magnetometry, system creation matching the requirements of majority of application. Moreover, it might be a basic building blocks in the multi-sensory system, which have almost unlimited capabilities. The development of such sensitive quantum magnetometry is a very complicated task, which requires mutual endeavors of the academy and industry. And this is exactly what Elta is doing in close cooperation with leading academic institutions and industrial enterprises. Elta has developed and continues to develop a complete ecosystem for design and manufacture of quantum magnetometry. It covers all levels, starting from R&D on the theoretical fundamentals and development of the useless model, R&D on key sensor components such as vapor cell, which is the heart of magnetic sensor. Usually, it's a vacuum glass cell of certain shape and size, which contains alkali atoms vapor encapsulated with carefully adjusted mixture of buffer gases required to stimulate and sustain the quantum interactions. Based on these cells, the physical packages of the sensor are being designed, developed, and manufactured. This includes all the aspects of very high tolerance optomechanical design and is focused on the use of non-magnetic material. Quantum magnetic detection is based on the light-matter interaction between atomic structure and photonic media, which means that R&D on electro-optical components, including lasers with which wavelengths matching the specific quantum transitions and corresponding photodetectors, their precision and the stability of their operation are most important issues that are being addressed in magnetic sensor development. The required sensitivity imposes requirements to R&D on signal extraction and processing techniques, including corresponding software algorithmics, along with the development of low power and low noise electronics that is also being developed in the house. Another important layer of this ecosystem is the development of metrological techniques and the infrastructural apparatus for verification and validation of the developed magnetometry system, which is also very untrivial, keeping in mind the fact that to be able to verify the performance of very accurate device, one needs even more sensitive measurement system, providing at least an order of magnitude better than the sensor under test. And Elta is focusing on the development of the next generation of the advanced quantum magnetometers, which will provide a sensitivity far below picotesla and should be capable to match the growing requirements of the evolving markets for homeland security, medical, and geophysical applications. We are open and will be very glad for cooperation in all the spheres of quantum magnetic system that I've mentioned for R&D in physics, modeling, development of electronic and electro-optical system, in metrology and testing. And we're also looking for cooperation and the development of the techniques and technologies required for minimization and miniaturization of the sensors, and mainly with the vapor cell microfabrication and corresponding micro-optics, microelectronics, etc. And again, we will be very glad for any kind of cooperation. And thank you.
Thank you very much, Igor. This was also very much on time and very interesting. Thank you a lot. Yeah, we are going to the last part. We have had 4 pitches now: Quantum Machines by Itamar Sivan, Light Solver by Chenet Radonsky, QuantLR by Shlomi Cohen, and IAI Elta with Igor. And now I would like to give the floor to Rachel Lutati. She is from the Israel-Europe Research and Innovation Directorate, ISAT, and she's the Horizon EU National Contact Point. And she will present the opportunities that we have in the upcoming calls. Rachel, the stage is yours. You're still on mute? Can you unmute yourself? Okay, so we have to bridge some seconds until Rachel will present. Okay, we've talked to each other ahead of the meeting, so things should somehow work. We cannot hear you. We'd love to hear you. Maybe you can hop off the meeting and rejoin. This should be fixed in a second.
Okay.
Now we can hear you. Wonderful.
Okay. Wow, everything was frozen for a second there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. We are looking forward.
We have it. Okay. Thank you for patience. Sorry for that. Okay, I guess that was a check to see that everyone is still awake, still with us. So yeah, I will try to be quick because we're a bit over schedule. So hi, yeah, I'm Rachel Utati or Rachel or Cheli. Everything goes. I deal with the digital and industrial technologies here at ISERD. Also here with us is Mr. Dani Seker, our department's director. He's the Israeli delegate to several of the EC's committees, program committees. And under his department, we deal with the digital industry space, secure society, EIC Pathfinder, transition, and more. I believe that says to some of you some things, not all, because we have a very different background in the crowd. Very grateful to participate in the event, in this event, and many thank you for the wonderful collaboration with the Israel Economic and Trade Mission to Germany, for the hard and excellent work, to the Israel National Quantum Initiative, TAL, for the cooperation, and of course to our partners, QBN and Optech Berlin-Brandenburg. And make sure to check out their event, Photonic Days 2021, will be held at the first week of October. There will also be an interesting event, the Nano IL 2021 conference on the same days. So check these out. And of course, last but not least, many thanks to our leading companies presenting here. I can feel my my brain bends a bit towards to a good direction. It's been a while since my physics courses. So I'll briefly tell you about the Israel Innovation Authority and ISERD, the European Framework Program, and the Israeli participation and collaborations within it. Quantum technologies in the EU calls 2021 and the open calls. So a bit about us. You know, Israel is fueled by the vibrant entrepreneurial culture, a robust technological infrastructure, a highly skilled human workforce that produces, we've seen here, most substantial number of startups per capita in the world. Yeah, the Israel Innovation Authority was created to provide a variety of practical tools and funding platforms aimed at effectively addressing the dynamic and changing needs of the local and international innovation ecosystems. Yeah. This includes early startup entrepreneurs, mature companies, developing new products or manufacturing processes, academic groups, seeking to transfer their ideas to the market, etc. In order to meet the various needs of its wide range of clients, the Israel Innovation Authority has developed an internal structure focused on 6 innovation divisions. I won't go through them all, but we at the International Collaboration and the ISERD unit. So ISERD, sorry, quick sip. So ISERD stands for Israel Europe R&I Directorate, which obviously couldn't be any harder to pronounce with the Israeli accent. Our main goal is to maximize the Israeli participation in the framework program. We do this by making it accessible, as in today's presentations, by representing the interest of Israel and the R&I communities in Europe, and of course by providing assistance in the submission process throughout the project's lifetime as well. So to sum it up, we are the Israeli national contact point, and we're dealing with everything related to the framework program. Our German NCP, National Contact Points colleagues, are in several organizations like DLR, ULICH, PTKA, VDI. Surely some here in the crowds know and have contacts there. So regards to our colleagues. So what is this funding program? Horizon Europe is the 9th framework program and is the main tool for EU funding dedicated to research and innovation, which, by the way, R&I is the new R&D. So some of you already know this. The FP scheme, framework program scheme, first started in 1984 for the technological advancement of Europe and was open to EU countries only. Israel was actually the first non-EU country to join the program as an associated country in 1996. This is a 7-year program. You probably heard of H2020, Horizon 2020, which just ended. It was the 8th FP, and now the 9th just started, lasting from 2021 to 2027, and called Horizon Europe. Well, here you can see the budget keep growing over time, obviously for research R&D or R&I or R&D&I activities, coming to 95.5 billion euros for the next 7 years. Next slide. Okay, so here are the participating countries. You can see the member states and associated countries. So I see that Switzerland is here. The status of Switzerland currently, it's a recent update, considered non-associated third country, but Swiss entities can participate in consortia for collaborative projects, bring in their own funding as associated partners. Yeah, you get the point. This slide shows the structure of Horizon Europe. I won't go into it, but we'll just say that here on the second pillar, you can see the different clusters representing the different themes. All have very branched and long and interesting work programs. Under cluster 4, which I'm the NCP of in Israel, digital and industry, you will find the quantum calls. There are, of course, also in other initiatives, other calls, but stick to that. Still okay with the time. When I'm talking, sorry, when I'm talking about the collaborative projects, there's a minimum condition of at least 3 participants from at least 3 different countries. We will almost always see larger consortia, size depending on the call budget, of course. This is a nice graph I've just put out of the EU dashboard of Horizon 2020 or Horizon Europe. We can see that the links of Israeli collaborations with other countries and Germany here on top. Tal, I think, just mentioned that there's a tradition of collaboration between the countries, and it's shown here also. This I have to say, the participation of Israeli entities as associated country members in Horizon Europe project is subject to the signing of the association agreement to the program between Israel and the EU. The understanding is that this will happen before the first project grant agreement is signed. Here we have a nice, very nice slide, I think, by the Commission, showing the quantum technologies aspects in the EU, starting H2020 and continuing. We can see the movement from left to screens, from left to right, bringing the technologies from low TRL to higher TRLs up until full implementation. in Horizon Europe, the calls are focused on research, development, and innovation. Quantum technologies are also covered as part of the Digital Europe initiative. But I don't want to go into it. The terms are not settled. We're not sure yet whether Israel will be, the Israeli participation in Digital Europe is yet to be decided. So more to come, and keep updating. This brings me, we've seen here Quantera and the flagship. So a bit about Quantera. I believe some of you here heard of it, maybe not all. So Quantera is an ERANET. If we simplify it, meaning calls for collaboration, calls for collaborative projects, but with national funds. Over 31 countries are part of the network. And the main idea is through coordination of national and regional activities to avoid the problem of fragmentation of national efforts, encouraging transnational collaborations, of course, and leveraging Europe's competitive advantage. We can see here, actually, the 2021 call just finished the first stage with 14 Israeli companies participated, out of which 11 were invited to the second stage. As for the quantum flagship, since we don't have much time, I will send you straight to the website, and always updating, always interesting things to learn. Another great slide by the Commission showing the flagship as an enabler. Again, with your permission, I will ignore the Digital Europe part for now, and we'll move on to the 2021 calls themselves. As you can see, they regard basic science, quantum computing, software simulation, sensing, and also some pilot lines. Since we only have 10 minutes left, and I think what's most important is for distinguished guests here to interact with one another and ask questions to the companies, I will only briefly go over the expected outcomes, or maybe even not that, of the first 4 calls. As mentioned, we see that the first one is on sensing technologies. Second one is on computing technologies, emerging computing technologies. One is the CSA, support and coordination action for the flagship, and another call for international cooperation with Canada.
Let me just interject, Cheli, and say to all the people here, the calls are open or are about to be open, and everybody's getting organized. Go, interact, connect, and if you need any support from us in the government, in ISERD, or in the national initiative, we're here for you. But go for it and do it.
Definitely, definitely. Yeah. The terms for these type of calls, again, those that are marked in a star are not yet established, but we do encourage you to go and learn and see what's happening, because these will be very interesting, as you can see here. Each of the FPAs, it's a framework partnership agreement, will have 1 or 2 additional SGAs. And there will be an actual and substantial funds for establishment of pilot lines and actual deployment activities. And we won't go into that now. I want to have a few minutes to interact. So thank you for listening.
All right. Thank you very much, Rachel, for this interesting presentation. just a few people left after the pitches. And this means there is a lot of interest to actually interact and hear about this collaboration opportunities. So if you want to raise a question, please do it now. Do it in the chat. You can also speak up, introduce yourself, and invite further connections. Yeah, maybe we wait some seconds. You can unmute yourself, pick up the word for some seconds. We have 10 minutes now. 10 minutes now to engage. Otherwise, we are always here for you, as Rachel said, as Tal said. Please reach out at the Israel Economic and Trade Mission, at ISAT, at the Israel Quantum Initiative, and we are very happy to help you out with contacts, getting to know the right people. And before we close, and we forget about it, as was mentioned in the chat, and as Rachel said, we are happy to also promote the Optech BB Photonic Days Berlin-Brandenburg, which will take place from 4th to 7th of October with a lot of Israeli participation. Frank Lerch, who is organizing this event, posted already the information. And yeah, go check this out. We will also have the opportunity to present our services there in one of the sessions, and we are very thankful for this fruitful collaboration. So thank you, Frank, for this. And so there might also be the possibility to get some free tickets. Get in touch with us, and we'll sort this out. Wonderful. Anyone who would like to maybe pick up the word again, also from the companies, feel free to share some more visions or what you're looking for, what kind of companies, what kind of collaborations, and what you expect in Europe and Germany.
Simon, maybe I raised the word for.
Yeah, Mr. Lech.
Yeah, hello everybody. My name is Frank Lerch, Managing Director here of Optech BB, and as stated in the chat, we are preparing the Photonics Days Berlin-Brandenburg, which will happen between October 4th and October 7th. And stated in the chat already, we have 3 sessions on quantum technologies. One session is moderated by Johannes Ferst. I believe he was or is in the meeting as well. Tal David will give a presentation on the Israeli ecosystem. And as I just stated in a private chat with Simon Stefken, we will arrange, let's say, a number of promo codes for Israeli companies or institutes to get access free of charge. So if you're interested, so Simon, I hope you are not too surprised. Please contact Simon, and I will sort out that with Simon directly. So if you're interested in taking part of the Photonics Days, we will have some opportunities for you. And as it was stated before, looking for opportunities, the Berlin and German photonics and also quantum systems ecosystem is quite strong. And this is a very good opportunity to get to know each other, to get in contact, to discuss ideas, and then to address, of course, the upcoming calls. Yeah, thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Frank. Yeah, we're looking forward to the event already. In the chat, we have a statement by Nimrod Dahan. Nimrod, maybe you can also pick up the word and explain yourself in a second, if you like. Otherwise, I will read it out loud for everyone. So Nimrod is working in the tech consultancy for EU funding. So you might also be a relevant partner to connect. We'll also be happy to get to know you and see how we can cooperate. Would you like to say something? He put his contact details in the chat, so feel free to get in touch. Yeah, thanks. So we're about to close the event. we're very happy about the great participation from Israel, from Germany. Thank you very much, everyone, for being here. We are looking forward to the coming years and the development of the quantum technology. And we are very much optimistic to see the Israel-German collaborations getting on and picking up to foster the quantum race. And we have heard some exciting startups that can contribute tremendously to this development. So we are looking forward to get in touch with all of you. Reach out via LinkedIn. You can always connect to us on LinkedIn, to Esther Elias, to Doron Chemo, to myself, Simon Stefken, to Luisa Benteler. Don't hesitate. And yeah, that's it for today. We are looking forward to the next events. If you want to register to our newsletter, you will also find the information. Just approach us with a quick message. And have a nice afternoon. Many greetings to Israel, to Germany, and to everywhere else in the world, wherever you are located. Thank you very much for participation.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Shana Tova.
Thank you.